Silva's interest in the product of a swarm organism is echoed by his intuition towards a conception of the lived experience as a multiplicity of sensory modalities, one where sight is not privileged over touch, smell, taste, or hearing. Hi, I'm Jordan Rountree at Baert Gallery, and this is Daniel Silva. We're at his third solo show at Baert Gallery, Mildly Anxious Beasts.
So this piece was done in a residency that I did in Japan, and it's composed of 3 different beasts. So you have 3 different beasts that are disjointed. So we have the heads up on the walls, and then the bodies hanging from a mobile in the middle. It was exhibited at a space in Japan at Local Hotel. The idea behind the work is to have this in essence is that we live still in like very primitive bodies, but are affected by kind of like the devices that we have, our phones, our digital tools. When it first was exhibited in Log Hotel in Onomichi, the heads would come out and they were like placed on top of the robots, so the robots would bump into each other and they would kind of like move around. They were like inside these membranes that were made out of wood blocks.
And in this follow-up to that piece that you did in residency in Japan, it's the opposite from the bodies being in the garden and the heads moving on the robots. Now the heads are fixed on the walls, and it's the bodies that are moving, as we can see right here.
What's key about the work is kind of like understanding the separation of both the bodies and the heads. So the bases are made from wood that have a whitewash over them, and then on top of the wood is this like silicone honeycomb, and on top of that are the masks. This work is called an endodango, and an endodango is basically a farming technique that was rediscovered by a Japanese guy called Masanobu Fukuoka. It's a farming technique that has been around since ancient Egypt, but it was rediscovered by him because it became very useful in Japan after the Second World War to revegetate and repopulate some of the flora that had been kind of destroyed with radiation and the bombs. And basically what it is like a seed ball. So you have clay, dirt, or compost, and seeds inside. So you make a ball, and then you can like toss the ball wherever you want. So these sculptures are made from mycelium, which is also related to kind of like the endodangos and the root systems. Mycelium is basically the root systems of the fungi, and they form these kind of like mycelial networks that are quite advanced. For example, you can have a bush here that is being eaten by caterpillars, and it can communicate to the other bushes around it that there are caterpillars, so they should change their taste of their leaves, so they become less appealing to the caterpillars. Trees can communicate via the mycelial networks, they can exchange nutrients. So it's something that I became very interested in when I did the Fragmented Garden, the project in Tokyo, because the Fragmented Garden was composed of 60 nendodangos, or 60 kind of seed units that I dispersed around Tokyo. And participants would record data points from the nendodangos. So like GPS location, temperature, when the seeds germinated, and all these different things. And I was using all that data to put together an exhibition. But in essence, the Fragmented Garden was a garden that wasn't limited or defined by its physical proximity. It was connected through the internet, similar to mycelial networks, how they connect, kind of like the plant kingdom.
What are these? These objects that are suspended like that?
These are cocoons made out of beeswax. I became really interested in the concept of the cocoon and kind of this liminal space in between the caterpillar and the butterfly, but basically the cocoon as a symbol of a liminal state or of a moment of transition. This one is also a cocoon of sorts. It's called a tomb womb cocoon, and in essence it connotes this ambiguity that you have in between like a birth, a death, or a moment of transition. What we did was the joints of the piece are modeled by AI and machine learning to resemble the shape and the texture of the wood. So this particular installation is made out of different pieces made from clay, basically ceramic pieces, and they're informed by this residency that I did in Japan, in which I was interacting with the insects. I was doing a collaboration with a farmer in which I set up a beekeeping box for him in his farm. But I also was working with an insect sensei and studying a little bit like the hives of the Japanese hornet, or like the killer wasp, as they call it. I had this chance encounter with a monk in a ramen shop. So we were having lunch together, or we were having lunch side by side, and through Google Translate we started to chat, casual conversation. But then I started to ask him about insects, and I asked him 3 questions. The first one was, do insects have souls? Which he responded to yes. Not only do they have souls, but basically all lives are sort of equal. So there is kind of like a balance and almost like as a perspective there. The second question I asked is there a difference in between love and madness? Which he said that there wasn't. And in this piece, I have some of some of these kind of like almost like poetic sentences that I got through Google Translate being displayed in the screen. It has been kind of like a natural evolution of my work, I think. As I was saying before, like following these sort of like curiosities kind of like have accentuated in this latest body of work, working more with like insects, with like beeswax, with some of these kind of like natural materials, and starting to incorporate also like aspects of technology and even like AI and kind of like watching how these things or kind of incorporated these things and kind of like this, how this can bring together new ideas, new objects, new experiences. I think it's quite powerful.